All right, welcome students to the first of 7 lessons I'm going to be doing on the Roman Empire. This first one, though, is actually quite simple. We're just going to talk about the last lesson we talked about in the Greek lesson, which are the gods that the Romans had during the Roman Republic period. So, one thing you got to understand is pretty much the Roman gods and the Greek gods are pretty much the same. But what is different is the Romans would change names, and with a couple of these gods, they're going to change the emphasis, and we'll talk about those when we get to those. All right. Well, if you remember the Greek, the Greek Titan Cronus. Cronus is Saturn in Roman mythology, and so this first generation of Olympian gods, Cronus and Rhea, are going to give birth to the Olympian gods. And if you remember, Saturn would end up eating his children until it gets to Zeus, which the Romans are going to call a different name here pretty soon. You'll notice that a lot of the planets that we have are named after Roman gods. All right, Zeus is Jupiter. He is the king of the gods, the god of the air. Remember, he uses thunderbolts, a scepter. He was known to have children with many, many goddesses and women. He is the son of Cronus and Rhea, and he is the most powerful god. Poseidon is Neptune. And if you look at Neptune through a microscope, not a microscope, excuse me, a telescope, you will notice that Neptune is this bluish planet. And Neptune was the god of the sea. As a reminder that the trident was his weapon. He made horses. Sea horses were considered especially sacred. And he is Zeus's brother. And of course, he was the son of Cronus and Rhea. Now, in Roman mythology, you're going to have basically two gods that represent the underworld. The main one is Pluto. And Pluto is a more direct link to Hades. But if you look at earlier writing in Roman mythology, as Rome is beginning as a city state, often Pluto and Hades, they refer to a god named Dis, D-I-S. Um, he's the king of the dead, again, the son of Cronus and Rhea. He has a helmet that makes the wearer invisible. And if you guys remember the story of Persephone about the spring and the fall from the Greek unit, you'll understand that the story of the winter and the spring and all that. All right. Hera, in Greek mythology, her name is Juno. And she is the protector of marriage. She is the wife, sister of Zeus. Of course, her mother and father were Cronus and Rhea. The peacock is her symbol because of the eye look. And cows are sacred to her as well. The ox-eyed Hera, or Juno. And she is known to be extremely jealous. And Jupiter, being the wandering eye, causes Juno to often bring plagues upon mankind, especially the ladies that Zeus has an eye for. Now, there is no planet named Juno, but there is an asteroid in the asteroid belt, and it's not a small one. It's about the size of Alaska. It's a sizable asteroid. All right, simply put, Apollo is Apollo, both in Greek mythology And in Roman mythology, he is the sun god in some myths. Um, so Helios is another name for Apollo that is used. And if you have a heliocentric solar system, which we do, that means all the planets go around the sun. He is also the son of Zeus and Leto. Wolves, dolphins, and crows are sacred to him. And he has the Oracle of Delphi, or Delphi, as well. Apollo has been used several times by the space agency. The trips to the moon were known as the Apollo flights. And there is an asteroid that Apollo asteroids are near Earth asteroids as well. All right, Artemis is Diana, and that's Apollo's twin sister. She's a hunter and she's the moon goddess. So the Apollo flights brought mankind to the moon, to Artemis. So Artemis's brothers were literally going to the moon with the Apollo flights. That's the connection there. Um, as Diana, she's also the goddess of light and large, large fauna with antlers. Those are known as stags, are considered sacred to her because she is a hunter. If you think about hunters, they often want the rack, right, of the animal. All right, Aphrodite is Venus, and she is the goddess of beauty and love, and of course, she is married to Hephaestus, which we're going to find out later in Roman mythology is called Vulcan, but she really is in love with the Greek god Ares, which in Roman mythology is called Mars. And when we get to that, keep that in mind because we're going to talk about the differences here. But Venus is so named because it is a beautiful planet and can easily be seen with just the eye. It's a very bright planet in the night sky. All right, here we are to Ares. The Greek god Ares is the Roman god Mars. But here we have a big difference. In both Greek and Roman mythology, they are the god of war. However, this is where the change begins to happen. In Greek mythology, Ares is seen as a sniveling, whiny, bratty god, causing conflict and dissension, and and so he is not really venerated. But the Romans, if you look in Roman mythology, there's a story called Romulus and Remus. And in the story of Romulus and Remus, they believe that the Greek god Mars, or excuse me, the Roman god Mars, came down and he was the father of the demigods Romulus and Remus. And Romulus and Remus are going to end up founding the city of Rome. So when you guys watch that video about Romulus and Remus, remember as you're watching that the Romans believed that Romulus and Remus were demigods. Demigods are half human, half god. And so the Romans will uplift Mars. And so the Romans will have a much higher opinion um, of war as a whole. And they will make the Mars god this great god. If you look at the planet Mars in the sky, it's a big red planet. And of course, red represents blood. And Mars in Greek mythology had uh, three children. Uh, Phobos and Deimos were twins. Of course, they also will have Cupid as well. But in Roman mythology, Mars has two other children, just not with Aphrodite. And those two demigods would be Romulus and Remus. If you look at Mars today, Mars has two moons. Guess what they're called? Phobos and Deimos. Now, Phobos, a phobia is a fear, right? Phobos is the goddess of fear, and you have Deimos, that that is fear, and if you get the word demons actually from that as well. So you have panic and fear, the moons of Mars. All right. Now the Pallas Athena, or simply Athena, that goddess in Roman mythology is Minerva. And if you remember the story of her birth, she is born as the daughter of Metis, who Zeus had swallowed, even though she was his wife. And then she gave birth to Minerva, and then she popped out of Zeus's head. Today, the brain is the central of the nervous system. And that's where we get that as well. She carries a shield with Medusa's head on it. And she is the goddess of wisdom and defensive war, where Mars is an offensive war god. Hephaestus, he's the god of the fire and the forge. In Roman mythology, he is called Vulcan. Thing to remember about Vulcan is he's ugly. He's so ugly, his mama Hera, or Juno, threw him off of Mount Olympus, and he always walked with a limp um, because of that. And he was hunchback as well. However, Zeus, in a fit of comedy, chose to have Aphrodite be married to him. And in Greek and Roman mythology, Aphrodite is often cheating with the Roman god Mars, who, by the way, the Romans are going to put Mars as the number two god. He's the man. Zeus is the head at Mount Olympus, but they are descendants of Mars, and so they will put Mars as the second highest god. Meanwhile, in Greek mythology, Mars is one of the lower minor gods. All right, Mercury is Hermes. So Hermes in Greek mythology is called Mercury in Roman mythology. If you look at the planet Mercury in the sky and you chart its course, because it goes around the sun many times before the Earth goes around the sun, it's about four times, give or take. We're doing estimation here. Long story short, what ends up happening is the planet Mercury almost looks like it's dancing across the sky. Well, Mercury was the messenger god, the son of Zeus and Maya, and he loves Aphrodite, but Aphrodite's really not thrilled with him. Hestia is Vesta. This is Zeus's oldest sister. Um, she would have a priest to serve her in Roman times for 30-year periods. And she doesn't do a lot in Roman or Greek mythology that we need to know about. But it is important to point out that there is an asteroid named after her, Vesta. And of course, Eros is Cupid. Demeter is Ceres. She's the daughter of Cronus and Rhea. She's the goddess of vegetation, has the power of growth and resurrection. Her daughter, Persephone, is married to Hades, but she's only there for 6 months. The 6 months she's in Hades, um, Ceres is upset and distraught. Those are the winter months. And when her daughter Persephone comes home, those are the summer months. There is an asteroid, or actually a dwarf planet now, that is called Ceres. Ceres at one time was considered the largest asteroid today, It is now designated as a dwarf planet, much like Pluto. And Dionysus is called Bacchus, um, and he is the god of wine and the vine. Now, in Greek mythology, a lot of his worship was banned, but in Roman mythology, they would actually build temples in him, and they would build what they called vomitoriums, and it's exactly what it sounds like. People would drink and eat in excess, and then they would vomit it up, and then they would eat and drink more, and then they would vomit it up again. And this was in worship of Bacchus or Dionysus. All right. I hope that was helpful. And you guys have a wonderful, wonderful